What's up YouTube, this is Bison X79 guys, and I'm coming to you with my latest deck profile video for July 2021. And today guys, we'll be looking at my updated Salamangreat deck. Now Salamangreats, they've been doing pretty much the same thing since they've been released. They can build solid boards that are not overly powering. They can protect those boards by interfering with your opponents, whether it be with back row or hand traps. They can out-resource your opponent and eventually grind them down to the point where all you have to do is go into maybe a powerful Link 4 like Axis Scroll Talker and win the game from there. That being said, Salamangreat is considered one of the winning decks from the last ban list because, hey, look at this. Miragstallio came from 0 to 1, and to be very honest, it really hasn't added all that much to the deck. All it really has done is maybe change the deck to what it used to be played as back when the structure deck first came out, which isn't a bad thing, to be very honest. It still does what it does, and it's very awesome. Personally, I have a personal feelings that Miragstallio was the wrong card to come off the list. It should have been Salmangreater Circle, but hey, it is what it is. This is Konami's game. We're displaying it, so we gotta deal with the cards they deal us. That being said, Salamangreat is still an amazing deck. Like I said, it can out-resource your opponent, grind them down, and then kill them with an amazing shot. So this is definitely a deck worth picking up to play if you already don't own it. That being said, let's go right into the profile. Starting off with the monsters, as always, we have one copy of Salamangreat Gazelle. This card is the heart and soul of the Salamangreat deck. Basically, whenever a Salamangreat monster is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon this card to the field. And on summon, whether it be normal or special, you get to select a Salamangreat card to send to your graveyard, whether it be monster, spell, or trap, which is just great because it's easy to recur any of your resources that you send to your graveyard back either onto the field or in your hand. So, definitely, this is the card you want to be summoning off of Miragstallio's effect, or getting into your hand via other card effects. Also, during your combo strings, you also want to be recurring this card back into your hand by the end of your turn. You don't want to be leaving this card in your graveyard, risking that your opponent will banish it with one of their card effects. So, definitely worth having in this deck, and you need to be running it. Next up, we have 3 copies of Salamangreat Foxy. Now, on its normal summon, you get to excavate the top 3 cards of your deck. Choose any Salamangreat card, any one Salamangreat card that you will reveal, add it to your hand, the others get shuffled back into your deck. Very cool. It's kind of like the power duality of the Salamangreat archetype. That being said, it also has a graveyard effect, like pretty much a lot of the other Salamangreat monsters do. While this card is in the graveyard, you can target a face-up spell and trap card your opponent controls. You can discard a card from your hand, special summon this Foxy to the field, and basically pop that spell and trap. It allows you to play around things like the dreaded Mystic Mine, especially if you don't have any monsters on the field. It can also allow you to get around things like there can only be one as well. So definitely worthwhile having in your deck. Now that we have Miragstallio back in our decks, we want to be running 3 copies of Salamangreat Spinny. Again, we want to be seeing a lot of different level 3 monsters to be able to get into your rank 3 play. Spinny has 2 effects, as basically a hand trap style effect where it power boosts all your Salamangreat monsters that are battling by 500 attack. But the real effect that a lot of players want is the effect that can recur itself from the graveyard back onto the field. Now, if the card leaves the field, normally after special summons itself, it's banished. However, because of Miragstallio's presence, we kind of can sort of now cheat an extra use out of that effect. Basically, you get a level 3 on a monster, special summon the level 3 Spinny from your graveyard, overlay, send Spinny back to the graveyard, and activate Miragstallio's effect. It's that easy. Alright, moving on to other Salamangreat stuff. We have Salamangreat Falco. Falco is just an amazing card. Whenever this card is sent to the graveyard, you're able to basically select one Salamangreat spell or trap card and add it back to your hand, which is great to help you recur Rage, Roar, or even other Salmangreat spells like Will or Circle. Next up, we got 2 copies of Salamangreat Jack Jaguar. Jack Jaguar is still very important in this deck. Anytime you have a Link Monster with an open zone, you can special summon this card to his own Link Monster points to in defense position, which is still pretty awesome. You have to return a monster from your graveyard back to your deck, but still it's worth doing because you get that additional buy on the field. This card, if it attacks a defense position monster, can inflict piercing damage. A lot of players forget about that effect, but it is there and it can come up. So definitely a worthwhile card. We run 2 because even though Call by the Grave is at 1, it still does things. And we don't want to lose our single copy of Jack Jaguar to that 1 copy of Call by the Grave. Next up, we got some more generic Cyberse support. So we got 3 copies of Flame Buffalo. This is another great starter card. Normal summon this card. Whenever this card leaves the field, you can actually discard a Cyberse monster from your hand to the graveyard to draw 2 cards. So it allows you to get a little extra consistency into the deck. It is a level 3, so pairing it with any of the level 3 monsters that you have at your disposal and can get on the field relatively easy. Yes, you can go into your Miragstallio play with it. And one of the cards that I'm actually including in this deck is 1 copy of Backup Secretary. I just feel that it just meshes well with the rest of these Salmangreat archetype because it is they're all Cyberse. And as long as you control a Cyberse type monster, you can special summon this card from your hand to the field. Additional bodies on board can just allow you to do a whole lot of different things. In this case, it can allow you to get you into your rank 3 plays. Moving forward, I am still running 2 copies of Lady Debug. I just feel that this card is too powerful of a starter card to not include it in the deck. It allows you to get any level 3 or lower Cyberse monster out of your deck into your hand. So it just acts as that extra consistency boost that the deck needs. And last but not least, for the monsters we're summoning, we have 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. Parallel Exceed is just a natural fit in pretty much any Link-centric deck. Link summon a monster, special summon a Parallel Exceed from your hand to the zone it points to, and then you can special summon an additional Parallel Exceed from your deck to the field, so you have additional bodies on the board, so you can go into a lot of different plays. Definitely a worthwhile monster to have. We have to run 3 in Salamangreat, primarily because you have to hard draw into it. This isn't Kotarkers, where we have the ability to search the deck for pretty much any Cyberse monster we need. For hand traps, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I mean, Ash isn't mandatory in pretty much every deck now, so you have to run it. And I'm also running 2 copies of Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion, and that rounds up the monster lineup for the deck. Moving on to the spells, 1 copy of Call by the Grave because it is necessary to have. A lot, and I mean a lot of Grave-centric decks that are still out there in this format. 3 copies of Silent Mining. Pitch a card to your graveyard. Search your deck for any level 4 or lower Cyberse type monster. 1 copy of Foolish Burial. This deck just jams on getting cards into the graveyard ASAP, so 1 additional card that can help you do that is always worth it. 1 copy of Salamangreat Circle, the card that should have came off down the list, not Miragstallio, but hey, like I said, it is what it is. Can search out any Salamangreat monster you need into your hand, or you can set it on the field and it basically acts as a protector for your reincarnated Link summon Salamangreat monsters. And of course, we have 1 copy of Sanctuary. 1's all you need. Sanctuary basically does a lot of work, allowing you to reincarnate Link summon without having to have additional monsters on board. 2 copies of Will of the Salamangreat. This is the in-archetype monster reborn of the deck. Allows you to bring back as many Salamangreat monsters as you can to the field, which is awesome, allowing you to build into bigger plays. And depending on how you use the card, depends on how many monsters you can bring back, so definitely worthwhile having. Moving on to the traps, 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Great card to interfere with monster effects. 2 copies of Salamangreat Rage. I love 2 copies of Rage primarily because even though it's recurable, just having an additional copy on board is just worth it. Being able to just remove those extra cards when your opponent's least expecting it. And last but not least, we have 2 copies of Salamangreat Roar. Roar is just an amazing Omni-Negate. Negates monster effects, spells, or traps. And if you reincarnate Link Summon, you can actually get this card out of the graveyard back onto the field by its own effect, which is actually pretty cool. Alright, so that is the main deck. 40 cards onto the extra. 1 copy of Miragstallio. Again, rank 3 play to special summon pretty much Gazelle from your deck to the field. That's the standard play that we're going for now. If this card ever leaves the field and your opponent controls another monster, it gets that you get a compulsory evacuation device effect, which is cool. You can bounce off an additional monster off your opponent's field, help break up the board. More importantly, if this card's effect goes off, or even if it's negated, you're still locked into fire. I know with Salmangreat is not really that big of a deal, but it can be an issue depending on what plays or what cards you have in your hand, so definitely keep that in mind. Now, just in case you do get negated, your Miragstallio does get negated, but you do have the ability to go into maybe a rank 4 play. I am including Dugariz, the Timeless Fire Attribute rank 4 monster, pretty easy to go into in this deck. And depending on what you give up, depends on what you can get, effect you get. You give up your next draw phase, you can actually get 2 additional cards at that moment. You give up your next main phase, you can actually special summon a monster from your graveyard back onto the field in defense position. You give up your next battle phase, you can double the attack of a monster you have in the field. That effect really should come into handy when you're ready to move in for game. This way, any monster you summon from your action deck can be a threat. So definitely a worthwhile card, rank 4 card in your extra. Alright, as for the Salamangreat links, we gotta play 3 copies of Baylinks. Baylinks can search out your Sanctuary, and also, while in the graveyard, basically acts as protection for your Salamangreat monsters, preventing them from being destroyed by card effects or even battle. You still take damage though. Alright, 3 copies of Salamangreat Sunlit Wolf. This card basically can allow you to recur resources out of your graveyard, whether it be spells or traps, or monsters depending on how it's summoned. You normally summon it and you special summon a monster to his own opponents too. You're getting back a Salamangreat monster into your hand. And you reincarnate Link Summon, you target a Salamangreat spell and trap card to add back into your hand as well. So definitely the key to recurring your resources for this deck. We have 2 copies of Salamangreat Heatleo. I use both artworks in this, but Heatleo's effects are the same. On summon, it can basically bounce cards back row off your opponent's field, back to their hands, and then you can actually power down your opponent depending on what monsters you have in your graveyard. So if you happen to have an Ash in your graveyard, you can basically bottom out one of your opponent's monsters attack and then swing heavy and do some serious damage on them. One card that I've been noticing that hasn't been played in a lot of Salamangreat decks is Hida. And it's pretty easy to get Hida out in this deck. And not only that, but since pretty much every deck is running Ash Blossom, you have a target to bring onto your field and further your play string. So there's no reason not to include this in your extra deck. I don't get the reason why Salamangreat players are not running this, especially since you can be locked into fire attributes with Miragstallio. You still have a way to utilize your opponent's graveyard in your own favor. Now, one card that I actually included is going to be Power Kotorka. Now, I know it may seem weird, but Power Kotorka is a fire attribute link monster, so it's a natural fit just in case Miragstallio gets negated. While its cards on the field, once per turn, you're allowed to target one of your opponent's monsters and negate its effects till the end of the turn, so you're not going to be interfered with that monster. Great. And then it has a quick effect during the battle where you can actually tribute a monster it points to double its attack. Its attack is 2,300, so you go immediately up to 4,600. So it's not that hard to get. So it's actually, excuse me, it can be problematic to get over, especially if you just say leave a Salamangreat Baylinks on the field. You can set your field up and grave up to the point where your opponent's not going to be able to get over any of your monsters. So that's why it's just a natural fit, especially if Miragstallio gets negated. And of course, like I said before, this deck can put boards up time and time again until you out-resource your opponent and you're ready to go into the kill. And the kill is basically going to be going to summon Update Jammer, get an additional monster on the field, summon Kotorka. Kotorka's effect will bring back Update Jammer to the zone it points to, and from there you link both of them off and you go into your Axis Kotorka. At that point, you'll have more than likely have a fire tribute monster in the graveyard, a wind tribute monster for update driver, or earth tribute monster from Transcode, and you're ready to basically pop your opponent's boards and swing into your opponent with a monster that has 5,300 or 5,300 attack. So yeah, that's pretty much the end game for this particular deck, and it works. Now, if you happen to not be able to own Access Code Talker like I do, the next best card to actually utilize would more than likely be something like Borreload Dragon. I favor Borreload Dragon over Boral Sword, primarily because by using Transcode Talker and Update Dragon to go into Borreload, you actually have the ability to get a 3,000 attack point monster that can actually swipe monsters off your opponent's board, giving you additional attack. That's why I favor it. If you don't, there's always Boral Sword, and you don't have to really worry that much about doing Update Jammer into Transcode Talker. You just target any other card, Link Monster in your graveyard to bring back, and then you can go into Boral Sword, which can attack twice naturally. So that's that for the extra deck. And that's going to be it for this deck profile. Guys, I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss any uploads. Check out the description box below. Find the link to my Discord server. Join the conversation. We'll love to have you. Check out my affiliates, tcgplayer.com as well as sidedeckversus.com. Great resources for any Yu-Gi-Oh player. Follow me on social media. Guys, if you made it this far, I am currently holding a giveaway for a box of King's Court. The link to the video should be in the end screen. Check it out. Enter it if you're already having it. And guys, as always, until next time, peace.